evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here and Jack Kinnett. All the lights are currently lit here on track. And it is go, go, go.
Down between the Mercedes teammates.
Denoso with a crafty manoeuvre up the inside. Masterclass from the Chilean.
Crucial championship points on offer here.
Do not count out Danny Berezne.
Longe has done the job. This is for the win between these two.
Freddie Rasmussen wins the United States Grand Prix.
Alfie Butcher wins for the first time ever. Lucas Blakely takes the championship. It's Barry Foreman.
Jarno Opmeer is your champion.
Well, good evening everybody and welcome back to PSGL PCF2 on a night that promises to be sensational. Tonight, two story points that may rival one another in terms of their greatness. Firstly, Jan Halliday has a chance at the title with 1 round to go. And of course, the other main talking point, we got a content creator in amongst our ranks, Alex Gillen, who believed he could finish within the top 10 within a PCF2 lobby today. Takes on the challenge. My name's Tom Knight, here to call all of the action for this evening's endeavours. Alongside me, the one, the only, Alex Heron. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, TK. Yeah, it's a night to remember for sure. It's the end of an era for some, but it's the start of an era for maybe others here this afternoon, as we may have a brand new F2 champion, I should say, here in PSGL for season 39. And of course, as you mentioned, a content who maybe thinks he can get a top 10. Actually, no, let's be honest. He thinks he can get a top 10. And we're going to see if that can come true this afternoon. But let's have a quick look at those standings before we go into the main race. As you can see, Jan Halliday top of the standings, 71 points. And the only man that can stop him now is Kian Goldendorp in second place. If Jan picks up a podium here this afternoon, no matter what Kian does, Jan will be F2 champion for season 39.
Absolutely right. There's a lot on stake for the PCF2 Championship, and as you said, pretty much all on the line for Kian Goldendorp. Has to have an all but perfect race here in Mexico City if he wants even a chance of taking the title to Abu Dhabi next week. And of course, being the final round of not only season 39 here in PSGL, but of course, being the final round here on F1 24 as we wave goodbye to what a game it has been. But ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased, very, very pleased to announce that, folks, we've got a race on our hands. We're moments away from qualifying getting enabled, getting underway, and I know you're certainly in for a treat. Let us hear your predictions on who you think might take an early pole position as we head in towards qualifying.
Here we are, TK. It is qualifying. It is Mexico City. And I think the man they're all here to see is still in the pit lane, of course. He's going to make you wait a little bit longer to see him come out of the pit. It's very cloudy and very overcast here at Mexico City, the highest circuit on the calendar in terms of altitude, and a very fast circuit as well, TK.
Certainly is indeed. It's an incredibly quick circuit. The almightily long run down towards the first corner here in Mexico. And of course, the weaving section through Sector 2 and finally in towards Stadium for the final section. It's going to be absolutely incredible to see. And of course, an advantage here in Mexico is that drivers with the lobby reset that we mandatory have reset after the qualifying session, drivers can afford to use all 4 sets of their soft tyres. And well, folks, here we go. For the one, the only Alex Gillen has made his way out of the pit lane considerably behind the rest of the pack. He wants to go last. He wants to see what everybody else is going to try and set in terms of benchmark. I've been told his PB is a 1:12.9. Oh, and he's already spun it. Oh, that was a moment of, well, let's just say imperfection for Alex Gillen.
Yeah, it's an uncertain moment there for Gillen. Unfortunately, he does not want to be watching that one back. Luckily, he did not spin it on his first ever outlap for PC F2. But Tope, one of our more experienced F2 drivers, we must say, is beginning his first flying lap of the session. A season that's been up and down for Williams and Tope, and of course not really playing for anything this weekend, but of course playing for pride, and obviously looking forward to F2 next year on F125 in season 40.
Exactly right. A new game, new season, and a whole new opportunity, not only for our drivers here in PCF2, but of course drivers all amongst the PSGL ladder to try and gain some good experience, try and get those all-important wins amongst the season as well. And I, for one, cannot wait to see. And let's see what the timing is going to be. Tope in towards that twisty middle sector. Incredibly easy to send a car barreling towards the barriers. And I'm sure it won't be one of many that we are expecting to see tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a difficult circuit. It's one of my favourite circuits on the calendar, personally. I really like Mexico City. I know a lot of people don't like it in real life because it's very tricky to overtake, but luckily, we're not in real life. We're in the world of sim racing, and this is where overtaking is a lot easier than it may be in a real-life Formula 1 car. We've got a 112.8 to kick off our laps here in Mexico City for Tope. Kian Goldendorf, the man who can deny Jan Hade championship this afternoon, only third. Diego Zora in third place now, as a lot of people out qualifying. The man they are all here to see, Alex Gillen, is coming through the final sector. Let's see where he can put his Mercedes on his first lap. Ricardo Benzoni goes to the top of the timing sheets with a 12.7. Very nice lap time indeed. Jan Halliday only 10th on his first lap. Here comes Alex Gillen in his Mercedes, crosses the line, and he's only 13th, the 1:13.5, only 4 tenths off the main pack of qualifying here.
Well, you say he's only 4 tenths off the main pack. Actually, if you look more considerably, Kai Pearson in himself is 3 to 4 tenths off the main pack with a 1:13.1. Alex Gillen at the moment stands about 7 or 8 tenths off provisional pole position, but let's not rule him out completely. Of course, it's only 35 degrees track temperature, 24 degrees in the air. There's lots more time in qualifying to get another run on the board. As we alluded to earlier, they can get all 4 runs if they want to try and extend it as much as they possibly can. We see Sergio Sobrino invalidating earlier on. I'm assuming that is a very similar situation with Larry Tulke as well, who attempts run number 2 as he makes his way through the second sector.
Yeah, Laurie Tukey, another driver that's looked very good so far this season, with obviously 2 rounds to go, going through the middle sector now. Will try and set their lap time here. Very slidey on the exit of that corner. Of course, not running maybe as much downforce as you'd think around a circuit such as Mexico City because of how long that main straight is. Maybe liking a little bit of a slidey rear end, but of course into the pits. As I mentioned with the commentator's curse, you know, not even worrying about finishing that lap because they want a new set of tyres. Try again.
Exactly right. 3 drivers already proceeding on their second, well, what will be their second outlap. Conrad, Daniel and Leo Lund, of course, recently released from race ban jail here in PSGL after serving a disqualification 3 rounds ago, and then 2 rounds of a race ban means he can see track action once again here in Mexico City, and I'm sure he'll be looking to try and put any doubts, any misbelief behind him as he heads for the final 2 rounds of the season here, of course, and finishing next time out in Abu Dhabi. Lots of opportunities still to pick up race wins, of course, still about 36 points on offer over the 2 weekends.
Yeah, and it's a real shame for Leo because of what happened in Austria with that DSQ, and then, of course, the ban for the next 2 races. That basically ended his championship challenge because out of Austria, he was one of the main contenders for the F2 title this year.
He certainly was indeed. Looks incredibly strong and incredibly consistent over the course of this F2 season. We'll go back and look at the calendar during our little break between sessions. Of course, we'll have a little discussion about how the season has progressed as well. But for the time being, at least the next 12 and a half minutes, all focus will be on qualifying action here in Mexico City. Drivers once again proceeding on their outlap, just making sure their setups are completely optimal and making sure that they are essentially primed and ready to go for the race in a few minutes' time. All 17 out of 19 cars on the track at the moment. The only 2 remaining in the pit lane, at least for the time being, are Angelo Dortenzio and, of course, Alex Gillen. But I can see on the track map in the bottom right-hand side of your screens, both of them making their way out on towards the track as well, as Hot Lap 2 becomes to effect.
It certainly does. Leo Lund actually only on the ending of his first hot lap here, 54.6 in the middle sector. Purple middle sector according to the map, but we never trust that until they've crossed the line, because sometimes it tells us that that's purple when it's actually just their purple middle sector. As Leo Lund comes around the final corner now, pushes I can't speak today, crossing the line and does a 1:12.720 and goes to the top of the timesheets. That is the time we expect from Mr. Leoland, and that is why, for a long time, he was a championship contender till that ban. I'm sure next season he's going to come back even stronger.
Certainly will indeed. Conrad slotting his car up into P7, a 1:12.868 for the man from TES, and of course everybody else just making their preparations for their final few runs. Sergio Sobrino decides heading through the first couple of sectors. He's one of the only few drivers yet to set a lap time alongside Larry Tilke. And of course, Rishan Jacobs, and I believe there might be a qualifying ban in order. We'll get a confirmation of that in the next few moments. I'm sure Alex can go have a look as well, as we do have drivers.
Certainly do.
Thank you very much. As we have Rishan Jacobs, the only driver yet to yet to come out of the pit lane. He is staying in there for the time being. Gillen starts his second run, looking to improve on a 1:13.5 here this afternoon, but I wonder if Riccardo Benzoni, making his way through the second sector at present, in towards the twists, see if he can try and take away provisional pole position from Leo Lund, who currently holds it only 200ths of a second, looking to try and differ them. Keaton Gordondorp, though, the other championship contender, trying to take it away from Jan Halliday. So currently sets provisional pole position of 1:12.647, which is immediately snatched away by Sergio Sobrino. Diego Zorzo slots his car as well up into P3 for the Aston Martin outfit. And Alex, I think we might have an answer.
Yeah, we certainly do. I believe Rishan Jacobs does have a qualifying ban, if my reading was correct, which sometimes it isn't because I am dyslexic. That's what I blame it on mostly.
Well, as we head through the first sector timing split, Alex Gillen not improving on his time. Remember, he was purple in the first sector. Yes, those words did come out my mouth on his last lap around. Purple in the first sector for Alex Gillen, improving in the second sector by over a tenth. He'll need an almighty improvement through the final sector, see if he can try and challenge anywhere higher than P18 on the grid at the moment. Crosses the line. It's a 2/10 improvement for Gillen, but can't challenge P17 at the moment, and nowhere near the 112s, which is other drivers are currently hitting.
Yeah, certainly is. Obviously closing in slowly but surely. I mean, another couple of laps and they may get themselves a bit further up the grid. But right now, only sitting 18th place. But what a lap from Sergio Sobrino as well. But we've seen this so much, haven't we, from Sergio? He always seems to pull something out of the bag. He did it in Silverstone, where unfortunately we didn't get to watch the rest of the race. He didn't go on to win that Grand Prix, but he did have a good showing in a very wet race, if I remember correctly. I think it was full wet the entire Grand Prix. So it's one of those things that Sergio does have the pace. He just needs to be a bit more consistent about it, but he's clearly showing that he's there. But look at the gaps there. 20 thousandths of a second, 74 thousandths and 93 thousandths in the top four alone.
I mean, if you expand that out to the top 18, still within 7/10 of a second, which in itself shows how close and how competitive this grid is on the best moment of asking. And it is an incredible offering, an incredible tasking either, to come in with assumably minimal practice, albeit as much as you can possibly do in an afternoon, and try and compete with drivers of this caliber and of this quality. And I think there is a certain level of respect that most people have for Gillen trying to, I don't want to say prove the haters wrong, but at least entertain the crowd whilst doing so.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, you know, right now he's currently sitting in P18. That's still pretty good. I know he's only out qualifying someone that's on a qualifying ban, but, you know, he's within 2/10 of, you know, guys that are in 17th, 16th and, you know, 15th, respectively. I mean, that's not a bad showing so far, and he's still got probably another 2 laps to go. I reckon he could get into the 112s if he had a properly magical lap. I don't think, if you got your money put on him getting pole position, I'd probably cash out right about now.
Well, don't forget, folks, we've got just over 7 minutes left of this qualifying session. Let us know who your prediction for pole position is going to be. At the moment, it stands with Sobrino at the top of our timing tower. Gordondorp and Zorzo make up 2 and 3. Leo Lund is out on a hot lap at the moment, with everybody else in the top 5 looking to do the same. I'll probably get at least one more run in. That was slightly wide by Lund in towards the second sector, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does back out. He does indeed. That rear light begins to flash. The ERS system once again going into charge mode, so it has an opportunity and a decision now. Does he stay out, try and go for another lap on already dying tyres, or does he dive into the pits, make his 4th run his final run, and potentially do it with fresher, softer rubber?
I think that's probably the choice I would do, considering he's got 6 minutes left in the session. But, of course, the reason I'm in the commentary box is because I don't have to make those decisions. That's down to the lovely engineers that will be in Mr. Leo Lund's ear. I imagine he'll probably give it another push lap, But if he pulls into the pits, I wouldn't be surprised either. So we're going to see how this goes. He's going to go for another push lap. Of course he is. He's a racing driver, and they want to be racing as much as they possibly can. So here we go. Leo Lund is going for his next flying lap on a slightly used set of soft tyres, but not really. They did what the first sector, and I wouldn't say the first sector is completely draining on the tyre wear.
Yeah, not overly disparate. Of course, you head into towards the first few corners. Yes, you can be slightly harsh on them, but in the grand scheme of things, you don't have to have too much faith and too much confidence. Conrad Bone putting his car to the top of our timing tower. Riccardo Benzoni just slotting into P2 as well, with a 1:12.590 and 5:97 respectively for our two drivers that stand P1 and P2 at the moment, with just over 5.5 minutes left in our qualifying clock. Lots of opportunities still, though, for drivers to try and get their name to the top of the timing tower. Gordondorp not improving through the first sector. Important to note, can he try and make up that time through the second and the third? Looks like Sabrino's improving. He's gone purple in the middle sector. Can he try and gain some time through the stadium section as well? 67 thousandths is what he's up on his lap. Can he try and maintain that round the final right-hander?
Well, not this lap, TK, because he's invalidated on the final corner. So he will not be improving his time. Someone we haven't mentioned yet, TK, even though the fact he can become world champion today of PCF2, he is currently sitting in 15th place. And to be honest with you, over this qualifying session, has not looked the fastest.
Certainly hasn't, but again, a lot of drivers do have tracks they enjoy, tracks they might not enjoy. Maybe we're even seeing Jan Halliday that wants to try and take the championship to Abu Dhabi next week. But in the time being, it's Kian Gordondorp that tops our timing towers 1/1000th of a second quicker than Conrad previously went round this track in incredibly close margins for provisional pole position at the moment. A 1:12.589. As I just said, 1/1000th of a second quicker than his V-Carb associate could muster up. We still have 4.5 minutes to go here, Alex. That's at least a lap and a half. I think that could be in for some spice at the end.
Certainly could. Jan Halliday, with that lap, did improve to P7, so that's still inside of the top 10. That's a very good position for Jan to be in. Of course, as we mentioned, he only needs a podium finish this afternoon, and he will be PCF2 champion. There's nothing Keane can do about that if TK's maths was correct, which I do trust TK overall in his mathematics. Gillen on his last lap, if people were curious, did invalidate, so he came into the pits. Will be going for his final run very shortly. Is there anyone really out of position right now, TK? I mean, no one I'd really expect. Maybe Angelo being in the top 10, but he's had a bit of a wishy-washy season in terms of where he could be.
I mean, personally, there's a few drivers that I'd expect maybe to be within the top 10, but obviously the PCF2 grid here is so competitive and has been over the course of the season as well. It's been incredibly close, left, right and centre. I mean, if you look at some of the history of Leo Lund, doesn't always have the best qualifying, but then again, race scenario always manages to put it out of the bag. Maybe if we forget Austria, of course, we'll leave that in the past. But there's a few other drivers. Liam Stevens, again, who's been cracking in qualifying for the early part of the season, hasn't necessarily found that spark in the latter half, at least post break week.
Yeah, it's just been a bit... It's an interesting season, hasn't it? Because there's been some really fast drives, absolutely. But then in some races, as you mentioned, TK, some people have just dropped off not as much as we'd expect. But it's so close in terms of a grid, and I can't be more happier commentating PCF2 because it's probably next to PCF1, where you expect those to be the fastest drivers on the planet. I mean, these guys are something else in terms of their level. I mean, all of them could rightfully fight for a PCF1 seat, come next season. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing where they go in the future.
Oh, for sure. And if you look at the grander scheme of things, these are definitely the esports drivers of, well, I don't say the next generation. That'll make us all feel slightly old here. But of course, if you look at the next generation of talent that is coming through, it will be probably some of these drivers that do end up on the biggest stage of F1 sim racing, representing their respective teams that do decide to sign them. So keep an eye on some of the names that race here. And who knows, some of them might even convert to, physical motorsport, real motorsport in part of their journey.
Yeah, well, we've seen it before, and I'm sure we'll see it again. Now we're on our final laps of qualifying here at Mexico City. Conrad Bohm is the first one that will be on a lap as we go through the first sector. He's a 10th up in the first sector here, TK, and that is a big improvement considering how close the top two are right now.
Certainly is indeed. Lots of opportunity, but of course it can all be thrown away. We know how tricky the middle sector here in Mexico City can be. Can he keep the car nice and planted? Looks very smooth as he heads through the left, right, the left again, and in that little kink towards the stadium section. Can Conrad be improving through the second sector? That'll be the question. He is indeed just shy of a 1/10 of a second improvement, 800ths of a second to be exact. And now it's do or die at the stadium section. One long right-hander to try and navigate rear kicks out on the V-carb. He won't be too happy about that one here this afternoon, but it could still be provisional pole position for Conrad. No, dives into the pits.
I think his rear end was just stepping out slowly, so he knew that that was game over, and he pulled into the pit. That will not be an improvement that he wanted. He will not get pole position in this afternoon. A few drivers improving. Leo Lund in P11 right now, a man who, as we mentioned, again, not known for his qualifying, but he can have a monster of a race pace, is really back with a vengeance this afternoon. He got a purple middle sector there, 1/10 of a second improvement, but he's invalidated in the final section of the stadium. He'll only start at minimum P11. He can back off and try again, but he hasn't got a lot of ERS. So it could be Leo Lund's qualifying over, and it certainly is.
Yeah, decides to dive into the pit lane, doesn't have enough of that electrical energy to try and challenge for provisional pole position further up towards the top. Keaton Gordondorp is improving through the first sector by 38 thousandths of a second, still looking to try and maintain that championship charge late on into the season. It is technically possible for him, not improving though. Through the second sector, 20 thousandths of a second slower than he'd like to be. Stadium once again being do or die for a few drivers. Can he come around the final corner? No, he backs out, and he is going to have to dive into the pitch. Sergio Sobrino out of absolutely nowhere, deciding to take away provisional pole position from Keaton Gordondorp. A 1:12.463 to his name. And let's look further back. Can Gillen improve? He's improving by 500ths of a second, but again, that's not going to be enough to try and challenge for above P15. He's always mentioned that his race pace seems to be quicker as we watch Riccardo Benzoni going second fastest on our timing tower. Gillen crosses the line, goes and stays P18th. Jan Halliday, though, out of absolutely nowhere. It's pole position at the moment for himself, unless Dortenzio can try and take it away from him at the final time of asking. It was purple in the middle sector for the Alpine car. Rounds the final corner now. Can Dortenzio take away Jan's hopes and dreams? He crosses the line. No, it's only going to be good enough for P9 on the grid, and our championship leader secures pole position here in Mexico City.
I mean, that's a champion's qualifying lap right there. It certainly is. I mean, that's another point that Keaton Gordondorp had in his grasp and was taken away from him within a few seconds. He went from P1 to P5. His main championship rival, who only needs a podium to win the championship, starts on pole position with his championship rival down in 5th. And of course, the man we were all here to see, Alex Gillen, down in 18th place, did manage to improve a little bit, but didn't get into the 112s. So currently starts 18th.
Certainly does indeed. Of course, Richard Jacobs being the only driver below him, at least in the starting order, serving his qualifying ban that came his way after last week's Singaporean Grand Prix. And wow, I don't know if we'll show it very quickly. I know race weather doesn't always transfer over, but I would have been hoping in this situation it did. It is an absolute bucketing down in Mexico at the moment, and unfortunately, that might not be our weather for the race. I pressed the wrong button on my stream deck there. Apologies, folks. So we will have the mandatory lobby reset, of course, turn ghosting back off for the race situation, and then we head to the Mexico Grand Prix. But Alex, you know what Gillen could have done to go faster?
I've heard there's one special thing that can make him go very much faster, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is of course our sponsor this season, GT.
Well, up to you.
Oh, no, I thought. Well. What can we say? Well, thank you, GT Omega, as always, for sponsoring here. And it's the last season. We're going to have them as sponsors here in PSGL. So it will be the end of an era for them come season 40. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have a Mexican Grand Prix to go through very shortly. But as always, we have now our mandatory lobby restart, which is time for the Alex and TK podcast, where we discuss all things PSGL, Formula One, and whatever else we want to discuss at the time. So, TK, let's start with PSGL, where we heard rumours that Alex Gillen was going to enter into F2, and he strongly proclaimed that he could finish inside the top 10.
He certainly did, and I think that is what's led to this afternoon's endeavours, of course, looking to have Gillen race. And I'm actually fascinated. I've said this all week. I'm incredibly privileged to be able to call this race and see how it goes for the interesting Grand Prix. I mean, there's 19 drivers on this grid, one of them being a content creator, the other 18 who have, bucket loads of experience racing in situations like this. They know the grid, they know the field. Will that be an upper edge to them?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, isn't it, for sure? I mean, everyone has got their eyes glued to this race right now. It's not only about Gillen, though. Of course, Jan being with that chance of a world championship. I mean, without Gillen there today, I think Jan's lap would be talked about a lot more. That was an incredible last qualifying lap around Mexico. And I mean, that gives him 72 points, which gives him a very clear gap at the top between himself and Kian. It's not impossible for Kian still to win, but Jan would need to have an awful afternoon here in Mexico.
He certainly would do indeed, and as we've previously discussed, it's now minimum 5th place that Jan Halliday would need to take the championship. Not to take the championship, to secure the championship for this afternoon's endeavours. Kian Goldendorp, of course, needs to win the Grand Prix and also take the fastest lap at the same time of asking if he wants to try and take it to Abu Dhabi next weekend out. All Jan has to do, if Kian does indeed win the race here, is finish P4 as a minimum. And of course, that grants him the title here in PCF2. Lots of opportunity for him to try and take it this afternoon. Of course, pretty much all the cards are literally in his favour.
Yeah, pretty much. It is his championship to lose, so that is what is all going to be focusing on. But now we've obviously mentioned our PSGL. Of course, we do have one more round to come as well, which we'll quickly mention on screen, which will be Abu Dhabi next Thursday. Unfortunately, that will not include TK. TK's last race is today for PSGL this season in this game. It's been an end of an era possibly for myself and TK. We don't know what's going to happen come season 40, so it will be interesting to see. But we're looking forward to whatever happens with F1 25, which did another deep dive today, which I think looked very interesting in terms of some of its graphical changes. We're still interested to see what we're going to have appear, more coming forward, but I'm looking forward to whatever happens. And I don't know what else. Well, I guess we haven't talked about real F1, which we normally do. Your team, McLaren, did very well again. Oscar winning. I'm not going to talk about what happened with Max, personally. I don't want to really discuss it. But can we just quickly mention on that point, that car is clearly not very good. And it makes his performance in Japan look even better now, considering what happened in Bahrain.
Yeah, there's been a lot of controversy and I think a lot of talking points around it, real life F1 at the moment. And I think it's fair to say that there's quite a few opportunities where drivers or cars are more suited to circuits. That's not an unknown. That's not a new thing to Formula One. But obviously, when we're talking about the era where Max Verstappen has been so dominated through the course of at least the last few seasons, to see him, I don't want to say necessarily struggling, maybe not as comfortable in the car as he might necessarily want to be, that kind of throws up warning flags for Red Bull.
Yeah, I think it certainly does. I mean, going into what is it, Saudi now, there's a hope that maybe they can challenge them more because of the high-speed nature of the circuit. But the way that they were chewing up tyres in terms of, tyre wear, and also just the nature and the way the car wasn't doing what Max wanted it to do is worrying indeed. But we're going to find out come Saudi, which is, of course, this weekend. Another race, another triple header. We're never going to get bored of them, that's for sure. And then I think we got like a really long break as after Saudi Arabia. I feel like we've got like a 3-week break before the next Grand Prix. I can't remember, but
yeah, I think we were a couple of weeks off before we head to the next round after that. Because normally there's a bit of a break after triple headers anyway to give the teams time to rest and recuperate. And I'm sure they all massively thank the FIA for having the calendar as it is.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing for sure.
But yeah, let's get everybody's opinion. Obviously, we've got let's just say a larger audience than usual this time. I couldn't possibly figure out why. But everybody in the Twitch chat or in the YouTube chat as well, let us know how you think qualifying went for the driver that you may or may not be supporting. And let's get some early race predictions before we head the 36 laps of the Mexican Grand Prix. I've got a question in the chat from from Gareth Allen. Alex, would you rather fight 100 duck-sized Alex Gillens or a duck the size of Alex Gillen? Now, I'll preface that by saying Alex Gillen isn't very tall.
No, I've met Alex Gillen in real life. Very nice chap. Paid for a taxi fare for me once. Only after I paid him though. Back for it. But you know, that's not the. But I would rather fight one duck-sized Alex Gillen.
I'm on the other camp. I'd like to fight 100 duck-sized Alex Gillens.
100 duck-sized Alex Gillens.
They're duck-sized. They're tiny. You can just kick them. Not that I'm supporting kicking ducks by any means, folks. Like, don't take that out of context, please.
Well, that's your career over with.
It's been fun. No,
it's been fun. We've enjoyed you being on the streams. I think I'd rather Gillen-sized duck.
Everyone has their own opinion. I mean, chat, if you're watching along, wherever you're watching along, feel free to let us know what your thoughts are on that as well. We got Dylan Warren saying, I'm supporting Sergio Sobrino because he's Spanish, he's amazing, and he's called Sergio. He's so cool, and he can overtake, and he's so cool, and he's amazing. That is a very long paragraph, but I appreciate it, Dylan.
Appreciate you read it.
I read it all. Yeah, I always read all the chat. Always. Every single message that comes through. It's rather distracting, but I try and read every message. And I think Victoria is just preying on my downfall and saying it's a good thing it's TK's last week, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he can say what he wants. His last week. That's how it works. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you are bored of the Alex and TK podcast, don't worry. It has been cancelled for the rest of the year because we are about to head into the... But here is the track, 17 turns, 2.6 miles, and of course, 3 DRS zones and one of the longest straights in Formula 1 going into that first braking point. Changeable conditions, very high altitude. Tyre wear is going to be a big factor here this afternoon. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what happens, TK. Any last-minute predictions you want to see? Are we going to have a champion crowned after this afternoon, or is it going to go to Abu Dhabi?
I think we're going to have a championship crowned here in Mexico City. And not only that, I think we're going to have an instant lap one, turn one. Someone forgets how hard to press their brake pedal. It is a rather common occurrence in Mexico and league racing. The two tend to go hand in hand. But we'll see how things do develop. Of course, drivers are now on the grid and waiting. We'll switch over to Alex's favourite scene in the entirety of the world.
It's 2-cam plus game, everyone. Everyone's favourite camera screen should be used in every broadcast you've ever been on before. TK's available for making 2-cam plus game. Patent pending, of course. But as you can see, the weather is very different to before we had our lobby restart. It's very sunny here in Mexico City. I don't see a cloud in the sky. So I expect it's going to be a default strategy. Probably hard, medium, or maybe medium hard. I'm very much looking to see how this one goes down. TK, if this is the final time we do this before next season, well, it is obviously the final time we do this before next season, but if the final time in PSGL, then it's going to be a very good last race, I feel.
Certainly will indeed. And let me say the first to say it's been an absolute pleasure. But here we go, folks. Drivers are on the grid. We've got 5 red lights above their heads. And for F2, the lights go out and we go racing. Gillen immediately with the jump start penalty. The drive-through will come his way, but we'll run down towards the first corner. Keep an eye on the leaders, folks. Who's going to be latest on the brakes? A V-Carb on towards the grass. They're 3 wide in towards the first set of corners. Surely this equation does not work. A McLaren of Riccardo Benzoni getting caught up in the midst, but it's Jan Halliday that works us through for the lead of the Grand Prix. Sobrino and Costas trying to work their way in second and third as well, as we still have fights further back. It's still 3 wide as we head in towards the second sector, Alex. This is incredible.
It's a fantastic start from the front of the grid. It's a terrible start from the man at the back. A drive-through penalty off the line is not what Alex Gillen wants to be seeing. And he will regret the day that he said he could finish in a top 10 in an F2 race. But still a long way to go here. It is very much Jan Halliday who leads the way here in Mexico with Sergio Sabrino and Gabor in behind. He's looking very good here, the Williams driver.
That is indeed. We'll put the tyres up on your screens. Every single driver choosing the mediums. Almost late on the brakes was Gabor there. Not necessarily what he would have liked. Hard tyres for Rishan Jacobs further back. As you see, there is positions changing as we head through the stadium section. Rebel of Rishan Jacobs already up 2 positions from where he once started. Gillen, will he serve the drive-through at the first time of asking? No, I think he stays out. Oh no, he is in towards the pit lane. There we go. To serve that drive-through. And of course, he'll be begging now for a safety car to try and pull him back in towards this race, Alex.
Yeah, it's very unlikely we see safety cars here at F2, but they're not uncommon. So let's see if we can have one this afternoon. Now, keeping an eye on the people challenging for the F2 Championship. It's Cian Gordendorp and Jan Halliday, 1st and 5th, respectively. Right now, Jan Halliday is F2 champion, and there's nothing Cian can do about it. For Cian's sake, he needs to make his way through the field. But also for his sake, he needs to have Jan drop down. Liam Stevens already with a 3-second time penalty. The penalties are flying here, TK, at Mexico City.
They certainly are indeed. It's looked incredible. And of course, track limits are a thing that come quick and fast. For all of our drivers, it's so easy just to dip a wheel off the curb, get a 3-second penalty to boot. And of course, they cannot be served for the rest of the race. No option to serve them in the pits, and hopefully we will see that in a future endeavour. This is a dive down the inside by Conrad on his teammate Cian Gordendorp. Of course, Cian's still fighting for a championship to keep himself alive, and he has managed to try and hold out his teammate for the time being as we round the final corner. Fastest laps being handed to every single driver as they cross the line. Andre Tortenzio holding it at the moment as Danny Van Ruyten gets a 10-second penalty for speeding the pit lane and then promptly retires.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of those things where he clearly thought he wasn't going to go any further and he wanted to retire in the pits. Now, you may be wondering, if Conrad and Cian are on the same team, why is he trying to dive up the inside? Well, they may be on the same team in-game, but one of them is a TES driver, and TK, you may have noticed that Jan Halliday is also a TES driver.
Certainly is indeed. I don't know how much there'll be love between the two TS drivers. Of course, there's no team championship necessarily here in PCF2. It's every driver for themselves, and we do often see that more often than not. We've got a penalty further back. Diego Zorzo's got a 3-second for track limits. And we see yellow flags being thrown for Danny Van Ruyten's car as he comes out of the pit lane. Let's keep an eye on Gabor, only 1/10 behind Sergio Sabrino, who sits in P2 at the moment as we make our way in towards the stadium section for the 3rd time out of 36 laps. And at the moment, everybody just sat in the DRS train waiting for that main overtaking opportunity that does, of course, come down into turn 1.
Yeah, it's the main place they're going to overtake, and of course, DRS now being enabled, they're really going to fly down that main straight. I expect we're going to see some DRS swapping between a lot of our drivers at the front. If you're new to a higher up league race, then this is what you're expecting to see. You're not going to be expecting to see lap after lap overtakes. You're not expecting wheel to wheel through the middle sector, but of course we're going to be sending a lot of DRS trains and waiting until that pit stop phase before these drivers really start flying. As I mentioned that, Angelo Desencio, and Race gets into it. Angelo goes into the back of Race, which drops him not 1 but 2 places through the field. A little bit of misjudge of a braking zone there from Angelo Desencio, but he has found himself in 9th place. I'm sure that one will go to the stewards, as he's also got front wing damage, I can see, as Tony Hightower now battling with Angelo Desencio, who of course will know that his F2 championship will not be retained this season.
Absolutely right. There's a lot of battles going on amongst our grid at the moment. Tope still trying to hang a move around the outside of Race, and that's going to allow the other Scuderia Ferrari, Leo Lund, of course, on the scene as he tries to swoop his way past. Does so successfully as he dispatches the Williams, and that moves Lund up to P12. And just to note here, Alex Gillen was slowly catching, but of course every DRS zone that comes our driver's way slowly pulls them further and further away as we progress through this Grand Prix. Once again, Conrad going for a move on his teammate Cian Gordendorp into the same section of track as well. Thinks he might be a little bit vulnerable in the stadium section is Cian, but alas, the other V-Carb holds its position, stands P5 at the moment as we progress through to turn 1.
Yeah, it certainly does, and with that DRS that they both have, it's going to be very difficult to close in as Tony Hightower does make the move on Angelo Desencio and pulls across him. Tony Hightower into P9 as Leo Lund is also past Race there, who's battling for P12 now, but Leo Lund into P11 as he's charging through the field. As the two Red Bulls are getting close together, Rishan Jacobs and Liam Stevens, and Rishan Jacobs is a second behind Tope, who's now into 12 places ahead of Race as well. Race really starting to struggle here this afternoon. I wonder if he's got a little bit of damage from that battling with Angelo Descencio. But right now, TK, Jan Halliday leading the Grand Prix and looks very, very stable at the front of the grid here this afternoon, Martin.
Yeah, looks very comfortable indeed. Of course, you can see him recharging his battery as we head through the second sector. I think he's just preparing for each and every DRS. And of course, two of them here on the track at the moment. One down towards the stadium section. You'll see the drivers open their rear wings at this moment in time, slam them firmly shut again. We head in amongst the crowd, and let's keep an eye as they head down towards the first corner. Of course, the major overtaking opportunity on this grid, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jan Halliday does remove himself from the lead to enable himself to benefit from DRS amongst other drivers. And can Sabrino try and take away the race lead? Does he want to try and take away the race lead? Because I have a feeling nobody will want to lead on lap 36 here. Of course, it's a long DRS straight and an easy one to overtake should you get it right. And everybody in this train at the moment just standing on ceremony. Nobody wants to be the driver that is going to be attacking. I say that as Tope and Andrew Dortenzio having a good old scrap through the first three corners. It's Dortenzio that comes out on top after using the DRS to his assistance, and now it's Williams trying to chase down Alpine. Will we see a late move from Tope? Sometimes he likes a little dive, a little look down the inside, but he's just playing the safe game at the moment.
Tony Hart made a little bit of mistake coming out of turn 4 there, but luckily recovered well enough to keep in front of Leo Lund. But Leo Lund definitely looking pacey this afternoon. He wants to prove himself. He wants to prove everyone else wrong with what happened in Austria and, fight his way through the field. We saw this a lot in Austria when he fought his way through the field. Of course, what happened, and we moved past it. Sergio Sabrino right up the rear of Jan Halliday, someone who's been looking to get another win here in PCF 2, possibly his first of the season, if my memory does not, if serves me correctly.
I think it absolutely does. We're a sixth of the way through the Grand Prix as we come round to start lap 7 of 36. No one really moving within the top 10, actually within the top 7. Absolutely nobody has shifted around. A few positions gained from 8th through 15th and 16th through 18th. Have yet to change positions in any way, shape or form. Just a reminder of how the tyres line up. We've seen Riccardo Benzoni going later on the brakes as he thought about a move in towards the first corner. The McLaren just trying to test Gabble there, make sure he's awake and not necessarily sleeping in that cockpit. And the Williams doing all he can to try and hold the inside line as tight as he possibly could do. Retains the position for now. There's a fight further back as Larry Toolkey thinks about a move on Conrad Bohm. Conrad sat a little bit napping as the Mercedes tries to wiggle their way through. Does so as it's a little bit of a mistake there by Conrad, rear kicking out from that kick from the V-carb and manages to, has to drop down to P7.
Lovely stuff from Larry Tookey. I mean, he really flied it around the outside of Conrad Boom there. And yet, as you mentioned, Conrad a bit napping there. Conrad looked very good in qualifying, maybe stuck up behind his teammate, just taking a little bit too much time about it. And now Larry Tookey, a man we know is not one for sitting in the traffic and waiting. He loves to get through the pack. And I think he prefers to be leading rather than chasing.
He certainly does indeed. I wonder if we'll see any change of the lead now. We're progressing through more and more in towards this race, and no one wants to try and make an advantage count. Of course, we quite often see this in PCF2. Nobody wants to go for those moves until the pit stop stage has occurred, as Auto does manage to get past Bohm as well. Haitala gets the best of Lund, up to P9 from P10, and Imtiaz as well getting past Hortenzio. Kaiser and Stevens having a good battle further back for 15th and 16th respectively on the circuit. Of course, the only driver starting on the harder tyre is that of Daniel, looking to go for the alternate strategy here this afternoon, potentially going hards mediums, or mediums even potentially even taking the hards to soft tyres at the end. They're just that good, and they can run pretty much for an entire race distance. We focus our attention back to the front of the race. Jan Halliday still leads from Sergio Sabrino and Gabor, who stands in P3. Riccardo Benzoni, who successfully held off Kian just a few moments ago, but Kian could be on the defensive here, as Laurie Sorki could try and wiggle away through, albeit with a penalty chaser behind.
Yeah, Diego Zora chasing down Larry Tookey, but Larry's not going to be wanting to mess around with any of this championship malarkey involved with Kian and Jan. He wants to pick up a Grand Prix podium, or maybe even a Grand Prix victory. He's got to get past Kian Gordonsop and a few other cars before he does that. But he's not going to let some sort of championship fight interrupt his challenge for a Grand Prix win. Leo Lund, on the other hand, is charging through the field. He's now got Conrad Boom right in front of him. as he's still chasing and chasing. He made a beautiful move on Tony Hightower after he took him back in the DRS zone. And maybe Leo Lund, late on the brakes, may go for it here. No, a little bit too far back on this occasion, but he's right in the hunt for a top 5 finish here.
Everybody is indeed. And of course, just to keep you updated on Alex getting further back, he's only about a tenth or two off the pace of our drivers. He is considerably pushing to try and stay with this front pack. He isn't necessarily too far off the pace to where we expect, as we see Leo Lund having a good old scrap with Conrad further back. This is not a normal section that you'd like to go too wide through, and the V-car once again coming out victorious. Leo Lund, though, I think just reminding the driver in front of him that he is indeed there, is indeed in his mirrors, and that, well, there could be a move coming rather imminently. Look how close the Ferrari is as we head in towards the next DRS section. Could we see a late lunge from Leo Lund, as we have done in seasons and races gone by?
Yeah, Bohm, I think, is really starting to struggle on his tyres. They're properly overheating. I mean, they're sliding in every single corner. Just been watching it the last few laps. The reason why Leo managed to slither up his outside is because of a rear-end loss from Conrad Bohm and just properly struggling to get that car on the road. And we may see an opportunity into the DRS zone here down the main straight for not only Riccardo Benzoni but also for Leo Lund down in ninth place, as we see Rishan Jacobs pull into the pits for his first pit stop. And as you can see, Leo Lund, he's closing. He may close quick enough. He's going to go for the late break here, pulls to the inside line, and there's going to be a little bit of room left, a lock up from Conrad Bohm, but he runs him out of road. But it was very nice racing, properly on edge in terms of our battling, but it's cost him a little bit of time in front and maybe cost him the exit going into turn 4, but Leo not close enough on this occasion to make a dive. But you can see that Conrad is starting to struggle on these medium tyres.
Certainly is indeed. Just to keep you updated, it is Rishan Jacobs diving in towards the pit lane, fresh set of hard tyres going on to that Red Bull. And more interestingly enough, if you look who's quite close to him, he's got a friend to try and pull him through and pull him back through the field. This could benefit himself and of course Alex Gillen as well, who could use each other for that DRS slingshot, and this could be a saving grace here for Alex Gillen. Of course, he still does have to pit, and we might still see a safety car. Of course, they are still enabled in the PCF2 lobbies, unlike the F1 lobbies, so who knows, anything can happen at close quarters, especially when the barriers are so close through the stadium section.
Yeah, anything can happen, especially with laps to go. And of course, if anyone makes any silly kind of move, then it could really cost some drivers. As 3 of our drivers are into the pits, 4 of our drivers, 5 of our drivers are into the pits. They're going in. Kian, Kai, Leo, I read Leo twice because he moved around the grid. Tope and Tony. As Sergio Sprino looked for a little move down the inside into P1, as we see Gillen is going to be very much easily passed here by Rishan Jacobs, but I believe Gillen may have let that one happen to get himself a little bit of DRS. As you see, drivers coming down the pit lane here, as it looks like Rishan Jacobs passed Leo Lund. Alex Gillen has got himself into a little bit of a scrap with a few other of our F2 compatriots. This is going to be an interesting one indeed.
Certainly is indeed. That chase pack well and truly established now, led by Rishan Jacobs, Lund, Gillen, Hightower, Tope, Stevens and Pearson all within it here. And Gillen actually trying to play a fair game as it's a dive down the inside from Tope. They're still wheel to wheel in towards the double right-hander here. Gillen at the inside line. Tope on the fresher tyres, swooping around the outside there, I think with a fair bit of ease. But Gillen, I think at the moment, can't quite judge how well he wants to try and battle this. It's going to be a mix of competitive nature and wanting to not disrupt the championship too much. A few late dives in towards the pit lane. Sees Jan Halliday now dive into the pit lane from the race lead. That hands the race lead now to Sergio Sobrino for the first time in this Grand Prix to reach 1/3 race distance. And this will only add more drivers to that chase pack, as Gillen already is second to last in that chasing group.
Yeah, hard tyres going on for Kian Gorlandorp and Jan Halliday. So they have both got those hard tyres on. And they should come out in front of this pack. But Rishan Jacobs has been on a charge since these new hard tyres. Kian Gorlandorp is actually going to drop further down than he may like. As I believe Alex Gillen is now at the back of this pack once again. But at least he's got some friends to race with, and a few friends indeed, as Benzoni and Tony Hightower, 2 of our most aggressive drivers here, I believe, in PCF2, properly going for it on these new hard tyres. I love it.
Certainly are indeed. No opportunity for these tyres to warm up. They've been expected to perform from the instant they were bolted on to these F1 cars. Haitala thinks about a move down the inside of Benzoni. Outside has to try and switch in. He goes for the switchback. Benzoni could be left for dead here. It's an inside line for the Alpine. Could Tony Haitala go for the switchback of dreams? They're still wheel to wheel as we head in towards the stadium section, but he lets the papaya go in front. That could have been an almighty move from Tony Haitala inside line, and then a beautiful switchback could have seen the Alpine topping into P12, but alas, just standing on ceremony a little bit. Zorzo staying out further forward alongside Dortenzio and Kaiser. There's 3 drivers that remain out as everybody else dives in towards the pit lane. Let's keep an eye on Jan Halliday, who reforms the lead of this chase pack, and the other drivers that have dived into pit lane, Sabrino, Tulki, Bowman, Imtiaz, will come out amongst this grid at some moment. You can see them on the left-hand side there as we run down towards turn number 1.
Yeah, they certainly are, and I believe Gabor will take that race lead, and maybe take the race lead of the Sergio Sabrino. But look at Leo Lund out of nowhere. He's launched his way past 3 cars and into the lead of this pack, and in front of Jan Halliday and Sergio Sabrino. We told you, without that race ban, without those disqualifications, he may have been F2 champion this year, and he's proving it this afternoon as Gabor goes round the outside of Sergio. Jan is relegated to 7th place, which is still good enough right now, as Keaton Gordondorp is down in 13th.
Certainly is indeed. Lots of it. Well, everybody in mixed positions. Of course, 3 drivers yet to pit. That'll be Zorzo, Kaiser and Dortenzio. Just have a quick look up to check on how they're doing. I wouldn't be surprised if we see all 3 of them diving in towards the pit lane. Maybe the exception of Daniel. Of course, the only driver to start on the hard tyre, so wouldn't be surprised if he does decide to go longer. Dortenzio trying to follow him through. So 2 drivers now left alone to fend for themselves. We'll go back to our chase back with Lund now in control. Gabor in effective P2 and Sabrino rounding out the effective podium of this chase pack. Jacobs and Halliday will stand 7th and 8th respectively, with Alex Gillen 1.5 seconds already off the back of this pack.
Yeah, it certainly is, but there is some fast drivers flying through this field right now, and I am amazed at Leo Lund's pace this afternoon. We know he's a fast driver, TK, and yeah, he was a bit reckless in Austria. It's down the inside, someone else is being a bit reckless. This is Riccardo Benzoni, reckless but ruthless, as Riccardo Benzoni puts himself into 7th place past Rishan Jacobs. Rishan caught napping as Benzoni saw an opportunity, went for it, but Rishan Jacobs may see it again, and down the inside goes Riccardo Benzoni once again. Jan Halliday wasn't expecting it, will try and run him out of road, but there may not be enough road to run him out of. Richard Jacobs takes the initiative, but can't take it enough and stays in 8th place. Riccardo Benzoni, as always, flying his car into places you wouldn't normally expect it and somehow coming away with it.
Yeah, he's one of the last of the late breakers on this field at the moment. Loves a lovely send down the inside. Himself and Leo Lund, 2 of the drivers that you can always rely just to go that extra couple of metres later on the brake pedal, and more times than not will get the car slowed down enough to make the turn as well. It's fantastic racing to see, and that's a rare mistake from Benzoni in towards the stadium section. The rear end of his car deciding to step out on him, but he does recover it nicely. Prevents Jacobs from trying to make the move past, but we head down towards turn number 1, approaching half race distance already. 2 drivers yet to pit. Of course, Dortenzio taking the medium tyres, 14 laps already. And Daniel Kaiser, of course, taking the hard tyres, 14 laps here. As we see further back, Tony Haitala not wanting to stand on ceremony, thought about a move. That's only going to open him up to an opportunity by top a further forward. Benzoni and Jacobs having a good scrap once again. Those 2 can't seem to get far enough apart on the grid for them to have a good bit of action. I think this isn't the last that we're seeing of the Benzoni-Jacobs action. Benzoni in the, well, I would say in the driving seat at the moment. He has the opportunity to send an attack down the inside should he so wish, but at present he hasn't taken that opportunity. Gillen has decided to pit after all. He's in. He's a fresh set of hard tyres after 14 laps on the mediums. I think he would have been praying for a safety car, but alas, hasn't come for our favourite content creator.
Yeah, it's not come at the moment. He's put on those hard tyres, and I'm sure he might possibly be able to charge his way through the field if a safety car came. I've got to be honest with you, Riccardo Benzoni and Rishan Jacobs has been such an entertaining fight. I'm really enjoying it in this P7, P8 battle. But looking, TK, for the championship right now, Jan Halliday only sitting in 6th place, but with Kian out of the points in 12th right now, Jan will be F2 champion as it stands. I do apologise.
Certainly will indeed. Of course, Kian's got some work if he wants to try and take the championship to the final round here in PCF2. I think the moves are starting to be made further forward as Gabor tries to challenge Leo Lund. Does so down the inside in towards the first corner. Easy move made for the Williams. Benzoni and Jacobs, we've said it enough. They're rubbing. They're side by side as it is J.R. Benzoni that comes out on top. Jacobs will have to settle for P8 on the circuit at the moment, but for how long is my question. Is he going to send a move to the inside? No, switches to the outside. The outside will become the inside for the double right-hander. There's an Aston Martin in front of them. He can't try and get the move done there. And Benzoni saved by the graces of British Racing Green.
Wow, these two are going to be absolutely, these two are going to be very much in each other's gearboxes soon if they do not calm it down. But they are loving this fight, and I am loving it as well. I'm sure you guys at home are loving it too. This is a fantastic fight between two very aggressive drivers here in PCF2, but two drivers that may be aggressive but incredibly quick and also incredibly good at what they do.
Absolutely right. Two drivers that are yet to pit as well. Of course, Daniel and Angelo right up at the top. I think Angelo deciding to take the medium tyre as long as he possibly could, potentially waiting for a safety car as well to get a free pit stop and hold on to that all-important track position here in Mexico. Of course, no pit stops yet as we see Tony Hightower once again thinking about a move in towards the first corner. Hasn't yet come to him, and Benzoni and Jacobs seem to have cooled off to a degree where they can follow each other through the racetrack nice and calmly. Benzoni again rear kicking out for that Papaya McLaren. I wonder if we're seeing a setup issue for Ricciardo on this occasion. Tony Hightower again looking towards the outside of the Rebel that stands in front of him. Just playing the patient game though. We still have over half the race to go. We've still got another 18 laps of this action. Nobody wants to try and send a move that could potentially be a race ender.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be ending your race at this point. Don't want to be getting up a little bit of front wing damage. It is not worth it, especially in a race like Mexico with these drivers that are, as we've mentioned many times before, some of the best in the world. You do not want to be causing a little bit of damage because a safety car can change up an entire Grand Prix, and that is exactly not what a lot of these drivers will want, especially Jan Halliday, currently sitting in 6th place. He does not want any possibility that his race could be ruined and Kian Gordon could pick up even more points. It is very much in Jan's hands to win this World Championship, but as you mentioned, TK, many laps still to go. Anything can happen. But yeah, Angelo's doing a fantastic job on those medium tyres up in 2nd place. Chasing down Daniel. As down the inside goes Leo Lund back in front of Gabor there in 4th place. As Richard Jacobs and Tony Hartala, another two drivers that love a little bit of a battle, battling for 9th and 8th right now.
Certainly are indeed. I think the race is certainly starting to spice up on us and our drivers. Gabor looking to try and take advantage of Leo Lund, of course, now without the DRS assistance as we head in towards the 2nd sector. Jacobs and Benzoni, a gap starts to form between them by only about 0.6 of a second, so nowhere near escaping DRS quite yet. I think Tony Hightower, one of the drivers that wants to try and disrupt that party as much as they possibly can. We make our way through on lap 18 of 36. We're officially halfway through this Grand Prix, and it feels like it's been non-stop action from start to finish here. Larry Toolkey looking to try and make a move on top here as well, of course, getting ever closer to the Williams that stands in front of them. Not yet in any striking zone, but of course, if they want to try and win this race, they've got to try and start making moves. Minor mistakes for a few drivers, but the rear does start to kick out as we make our way through the stadium section, and Andrew Hortenzio finally decides to dive in towards the pits. He's done 18 laps on a set of mediums. He'll have fresher, harder tyres at the end, but look at all the track position that he'll lose as a result of it.
And he's having a front wing change as well, TK. I mean, if anything could go wrong for Angelo, it has now. He did a fantastic job, for a very long time. He does need a safety car now, really, to get back into this Grand Prix. It's not impossible. Definitely not impossible. But with about 16 laps to go when we cross the line, it's unlikely. But we've seen stranger things happen in Formula 1 and PSGL over the years. We have commentated PSGL here in F2 and, of course, in F3 previously. But TK, it is still, right now, Jan Halliday's F2 championship. Even with Kian just outside the points, it would not be enough to stop him.
That he wouldn't, and I think Kian knows what he's got to do if he wants to try and take the championship to Abu Dhabi. He'd be begging that his engineer can try something a little bit creative in terms of strategy, maybe in terms of sending a cheeky move down the inside. Who quite knows? Just talking incredibly close to the back of top as we head in towards that infamous stadium section. The fans will roar as our drivers parade through that. And that's a late dive down the inside by Diego Zorzo, trying to disrupt Kian's party even more. The Aston Martin once again reminding the V-Cub that he is indeed there. He was in his mirrors, and actually he got a little bit wobbly through the elongated right-hander to finish off the lap, and this could allow Liam Stevens to try and have a sniff in towards the first corner. Are we going to see a late dive, a late charge here by Liam Stevens, who looked incredibly strong in the first half of the season? He moves out of the slipstream. Diego Zorzo looking later on the brakes. This time tries to make it stick a little bit more successfully. Inside tends itself to the outside and the inside once again. And that's Zorzo up into P11. Keane Gordondorp's hopes and dreams once again becoming crushed by a British Racing Green car.
And it becomes even more crushed in a minute because a Red Bull is going around his outside, and Kian may be upset even more by the Red Bull racing car, who pushes himself into P12. Two cars that, yes, may have penalties in front of them, but that won't matter anything if Kian can't make his way through them and get up a little bit further, because right now it is very much championship over for Mr. Kian Gordondorp.
Bernie is indeed. Keep an eye on Riccardo Benzoni here. They're looking to try and put the screws to our current championship leader, Jan Halliday, as they make their way in towards the stadium section. A lap round here in Mexico seems to go by incredibly quickly. Of course, in the 1:15s, one of the fastest laps on the calendar when you consider all of the factors adding together, albeit when it becomes a wet race, becomes incredibly boring as a Grand Prix to watch. But let's see if Benzoni can try and disrupt the party down at Aston Martin at the moment. I don't think he's going to be close enough to try and lodge a move. Could we see anything from Sabrino or come from Leo Lund? I think it could be a move from Gabor. No, just backs out. Decides not to send a move on Leo Lund in towards the first corner. Lund is safe for the time being. Gabor once again controlling the pace of the cars behind him as he sits patiently in P3, effectively P2, when we see Daniel Kaiser dive in towards the pit lane. Jan Halliday not far back, actually went for a move there on Sergio Sabrino, thought about the inside line, potentially thinking about the switch back, but for the time being we'll just sit in the DRS, sit in the patience game and see how it goes. I'm sure everybody at the moment will be on edge to see if anything happens here in this Grand Prix, and I think you alluded to earlier that the drivers will not be wanting a safety car, or at least Jan Halliday will not be wanting a safety car as it currently stands. I think I can speak for pretty much everybody in chat when they say they probably do want a safety car, as Conrad Bone picks up a 3-second penalty for not abiding by track limit warnings. Yeah, I think a safety car would very much spice up this Grand Prix. But right now, it is no safety car, and right now, doesn't look like we're going to get one. As I mentioned, that race goes into the wall sideways, but has recovered enough to keep going in the right direction. But almost the commentator's curse came into effect there, ladies and gentlemen. We tried our best, but there was no safety car on the horizon. That it wasn't Dean seeing the move here. Sabrino later on the brakes. Is it going to be one? Is it going to be two? It's three wide in towards the first corner. Gabor has to back out. Sabrino thought about a move down the inside of both of them. Lund gets lucky once again, and the Haskar, of course, same Ferrari power unit, pushing it through this Grand Prix. Sabrino has to go from attack to defence minded as Jan Halliday is on the scene. It's three wide once again on lap 22. He fends off Halliday. Gabor's still there on the outside line, and the Haas once again looking to be free and clear. Jan Halliday's not done though. Gabor wants a piece of the action. He's had to go defensive as we head in towards the second sector. He loses out as Jan Halliday decides he does not want this championship to be won without him on the podium.
Does Jan Halliday remember he's fighting for a championship here, TK? That was a very risky decision the Aston Martin made to get involved in that battle. It could have ended terribly for him. I think at one point he backed out of the corner. His engineer told him, please, for God's sake, Jan, do not do this. We need this championship, friend. But he just didn't listen entirely, because he's now found himself on the podium because Daniel has now finally pitted, and he will go on to, I imagine, the medium tyres. He'll be very fast, but very far down the grid order.
Certainly will indeed. He'll have to take them a considerable distance as well, and I think he will drop pretty much down to P16, if not P17. Benzoni making a move here on Gabor, looks for the inside line, hasn't necessarily got the confidence, does though on the brakes, get it, got it nice and done, and the Williams driver relegated to P5, which now the chase pack has become the main pack, as of course the last of our non-pitties has headed in towards the pit lane, and that does mean Daniel Kaiser in towards the pits. It's a late move there from Rashad Jacobs, who's now trying to take advantage of being in the main pack once again. The Red Bull trying to find his way around the outside, succumbs to a 3-second penalty for track limits. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a steward's report going in about that slightly later on, as Tony Hightower also takes advantage of a slow moving Williams, allows the Alpine to try and move himself up to P7 on the grid at the moment.
Yeah, I can't imagine that one standing, to be honest with you, with the Well, he'll probably say he was forced off circuit, which I do believe he was. We see track limits go there quite a lot in terms of not only sim racing, but of course in esports as well. So I expect that will be going to a steward. But of course, I'm no steward, ladies and gentlemen. That is why I'm commentating here in the box and not out there on the track or in a lovely steward's room. But someone we haven't mentioned for a while, TK, Leo Lund is leading the Mexican Grand Prix. A man who obviously, without that DSQ and without that those two race bans, would probably be leading the F2 Championship right now. As down the inside goes Tope a little bit too far back.
Yeah, got the move done on Tony Hightower, of course, used the slipstream advantage in towards the first corner and didn't quite have the capability to try and send a move on the Rebel, at least at this time of asking. I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe see a late endeavour on the brake pedal, but alas no, decides to wait in turn, wait in line as we progress through the first and second sectors of lap 24 of 36. We're vastly and rapidly approaching 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Gillen, though, is slowly starting to pull his way back in towards this, only 13 seconds off the back of Angelo and Daniel.
He's closing up for sure. He's definitely closing up. I mean, you got to respect the man coming into this. You know, maybe he thought it wouldn't be as difficult as it has been, but he's definitely giving it a go, and we can respect that for sure.
Certainly is, and I think, you know, with the safety car there could be an opportunity for him to try and pull it closer to the field, and we'd love to see some proper side-by-side racing with everybody on the field here as we round to start lap 25 of 36 here, getting my maths wrong in my head. It's still Lund that leads from Sabrina from Halliday in towards turn 1, and I think we won't start seeing moves until probably around lap 30, and I think all chaos could break loose. Topic goes to move and Rashan Jacobs, and with the DRS assistance could be an easy pass. Further back, a Ferrari going to go for an almighty send. That's Race Imtiaz trying to send a move in towards the first corner, inside line once again, opening itself up, and Conrad Bohm just has to try and forgive and forget, otherwise they're going to fall off the back of this main train here. Sabrina rapidly approaching the back of Leo Lund's car. The DRS assistance coming to his aid as he continues to pull ever closer to Ferrari. Rashan Jacobs and Tony Hightower having a good old scrap, and they love going side by side through most of this section here. I think it's because they can try and push some other drivers off the track.
Yeah, I think they want to just give a little bit of a receipt there for the the track limit penalty that Rashan got himself by Tony pushing off circuit. But anyway, that has not been happening that much, as I would have expected considering the circuit we are running around. But as you mentioned, TK, we're about to go on to lap 26. 10 to go once we cross the line, as Larry Tukey and Diego Zora getting it into the stadium section. Not often you see overtakes going through there, especially ones that end up correctly, but both of them are facing the right direction. But TK, right now, it is still Jan's title to lose, and he's currently in a very good position in third place.
Certainly is indeed, and I think he'll be hoping and praying that it stays like this, albeit he probably would like to score a few more points and even win the championship on a win as well, as Zorzo and Turkey once again going side by side through the opening section of corners here at the Mexico Grand Prix. And I think at the moment is Zorzo that comes out on top. Of course, the other Aston Martin not battling for a championship at the moment, as Kian Gordendorp comes out of absolutely nowhere, sends the move down the inside of Larry Turkey. Now he might be coming to play. He's run off wide in towards the second sector, and oh, that's a 3-second penalty to the name of Kian Gordendorp, and if that penalty stands, that could be his championship hopes and dreams well and truly, lost in Mexico.
Yeah, I think he got a little bit of a tap off the circuit, in my opinion, by Larry Tukey. He did try around the outside, which we have seen before does not end well for the drivers going around the outside. But, yeah, I mean, that is definitely one I'm going to have to look back on. But I think this will be a race that Kian looks back on. Yes, he did not have the biggest chance of being world champion at the end of this spree, or at the end of this season, but I mean, he had a fighting chance, and that will be the one he'll remember. But hopefully going into season 40, he's got even more of a fighting chance with the next F1 game, which of course could mean anything for any driver.
Certainly could indeed. 10 laps to go now in the Mexican Grand Prix. The two Williams scrapping it out in towards the first corner. It's going to be Tope sending a move down the inside of his teammate Gabor. Gabor getting held up by the McLaren of Riccardo Benzoni, who just stood in the middle of the track, trying to hold off the Williams that was trying to encompass him further back. Not necessarily trying to enhance or benefit there, either the Williams, but alas, it came to the aid of Tope. Couldn't allow Gabor to try and make the move, as we see Tony Hightower once again trying to get involved with Diego Zorzo in towards the second sector. The double right-hand right-hander that comes at us quick and fast. No penalties this time around, though. I think Haitala could get the move said and done. They're still on the outside, and once again in towards the S's of this section. This is not a place that you want to go 2x2, and I think Haitala just has to back off for the time being. Remains in P9, but he knows Zorzo. Well, I think Zorzo will know he's well and truly in his mirrors.
Yeah, he certainly will. He did not want to make a little bit more of a mistake in that corner because, again, as we mentioned, it could end quite badly. It's a very high-speed sector here in Mexico City, and with it being so high up as well. Oh, as we have a spin! We've got a spin for Kai Pearson in the final sector. Oh, has it almost taken Daniel out as he had to slow down? Kai trying to turn himself around. He's got a drive-through penalty for a severe collision with Angelo Descencio, but he's made his way through the corner now. And I think he slowed down a little bit to give Angelo a little bit of a wave as he went past. But that's not ended well for Kai Pearson and not ended well for Angelo Descencio. No safety car, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately. But that is another retirement and basically another car out of this Grand Prix. As we see a change for possibly the race lead and second place, as it looks like Leo Lund is slowing down here in the middle sector as Sergio Sabrino, Ricardo Benzoni and Jan will go wheel to wheel.
Well, they're going 2x2x2. Sabrino once again retaking the race lead at the moment. Benzoni finds himself in P2 for the first time this race. Lund, of course, who's been leading the Grand Prix for so many laps, slowing down through the second sector, drops and relegates himself down to P3 on the track. Halliday still stands in fourth with an opportunity to try and pull himself through. I'm sure the stewards will probably look at that instant between Dortenzio and Pearson rather strictly. It was a horrendous rejoin for the Haas car, and of course taking out another at the same time of asking as Pearson gets another 3-second penalty for track limits. Race Imtiaz and Liam Stevens going wheel to wheel through the final corner here, and the Red Bull just has to hand itself to the Scuderia Ferrari as they allow themselves into P12. But Leo Lund here could be looking for an opportunity. Recharge the battery as we head in towards the first corner. Benzoni now retakes the race lead. Lund trying to follow him through around the outside of the first corner. Outside becomes the inside, becomes the outside once again, and the Ferrari just holds it within track limits, and this could be Leo Lund once again promoting himself to P2 on the circuit as Sabrino does everything he possibly can to try and defend from the Scuderia Ferrari, but defend he cannot, and Leo Lund once again on the second step of the podium.
I think Leo may have slowed down in the middle sector, TK, for a bit of DRS games, but he's a few laps early as what is going on in that mess is cars going into one corner there. Surprised they've all come out of it. They're all facing the right direction. But do you think that was a bit of DRS games from Leo? Did he make a proper mistake in that middle sector? We didn't see anything on the camera to suggest that he'd made a little bit of a mistake. I wonder if he just backed off for DRS.
I don't know if we're going to see DRS games this early in Mexico. We've still got 7 laps to go in this Grand Prix. And of course, Benzoni could be breaking out DRS here. Look at him, 9/10 of a second to the clear of Leo Lund, who is continually slowing down. I wonder if the Ferrari genuinely has an issue here. We don't see him go this slow on often, let alone break away and allow the DRS to potentially become a non-existent issue. Sabrino could have an advantage. Of course, the Scuderia will still have DRS towards the first corner. It's going to be a matter who's later on the brakes here, Lund or Sabrino. Who's it going to be? Inside line tends itself Sabrino. It's Lund, though, who sends himself round the outside, and Lund somehow holding on towards P2. And if this is not a technical issue for the Scuderia Ferrari, well, tell me about it, because this could be a masterful play to hold on to DRS. Sabrino thinking about a move in towards the first corner, inside line, has to go the long way around, doesn't have the grip on the tyres, and once again just sits in behind his competition.
Yeah, he certainly does. I mean, Leo is playing a very dangerous game if he is playing the DRS chicken with 6 laps to go. As Kai Pearson does go into the pits for, I imagine, what will be soft tyres and possibly a fast lap time. No, medium tyres on Kai's car. But yeah, as we were mentioning, I'm sure that will go to the stewards. That rejoin was definitely unsafe, and I'm sure that will be talked about after the Grand Prix. But there's not for us to talk about. We've got 6 laps of epic racing to go before the checkered flag. And Ricardo Benzoni is the car that leads it this afternoon. Jan Halliday in 5th place will be World Drivers' Championship of F2 this season if he stays where he is, with Kian Gordon dropped down in 10th. Even though a lot of cars in front of him have time penalties, he's got himself one too. It is not impossible for him to still climb through the field, but Jan needs to at least get a podium. If Kian can get right close to him, TK, the championship may go down to Abu Dhabi. But at the front, it is Sergio Sabrino and Leo Lund, and they all there in the game.
Certainly doing, there's a move further back. Gordon Dorp and Nitala getting themselves caught up, and it's a beautiful move from Gordon Dorp, trying to get past and does so indeed up to P9, but the battle is well and truly not over yet. And look who is rapidly approaching on the scene. It's Larry Toolkey once again, another driver that is quite often late on the brakes. Gabor and Rishan having a good scrap through the double right-hander in towards the second sector. The Williams holding off the Red Bull at the moment. But as you said, this is where the battle is going to start to heat up. I said we aren't going to see the major moves until around lap 30 of this Grand Prix. And while they all seem to have come at once as we continue through this Grand Prix, and there is a fact that Kai Pearson could still be lapped because he still has to serve that drive-through penalty for the earlier collision with Andre Ortenzio, unless he is intending to go for fastest lap and then retire before serving that penalty.
Yeah, I mean, that is possible. He might be going fast lap and then to serve the penalty, but that will be interesting to see. But for Kian Gordendorp, TK, what does he need? What does he need to stay in this championship fight as it stands?
I think he needs a race win in the nicest possible of respects, but it seems to be ever increasing what he has to try and do. The penalty to his name. We've got drivers like Race, don't count out Daniel as well, that can try and make moves up. Rishan Jacobs down the inside now of Diego Zorzo as Sabrino has to hold off Lund further forwards. Everybody trying to make moves desperately to try and get themselves in a good position for the final lap of racing, because I guarantee it will come down to that. Sabrino defends to the inside, moves back to open up the corner. Lund has to do the same. Further back is Jacobs, and Zorzo getting involved as Rishan Jacobs once again tries the outside line. It doesn't open itself to him, and Kian Gordendorp could say very well, thank you very much, as he goes through the inside line, but again just has to back out for the sister team. The two Red Bull sisters once again fighting. I don't think this could be the end of that story. 32 of 36. We've got 4 laps to go when we cross the line next time around, and keep an eye on Jan Halliday here. Thought about a move very temporarily. On top as we see the fastest lap being set by Kai Pearson. I think we could be seeing a retirement coming in the next lap or so.
Yeah, so maybe it was Angelo that picked up the drive-through penalty instead, which I think would have been a bit weird considering he wasn't the one that caused the incident. But you never know, it could be happening. 9/10 of a second between Riccardo Benzoni and P2 of Sergio Sabrino right now. Because I said P2 of Sergio Sabrino because it's going to change every single lap, because Coppe is now past Leo Lund into third place. You've noticed that Jan Halliday may be backing off a little bit because I think he realises that there's a championship on that line here and he doesn't want to get involved in a big old battle, as Kian Gordendorp and Rishan Jacobs are properly fighting now for P8 as they are going for it wheel to wheel. I mean, here comes Kian Gordendorp. Can he possibly get past Rishan Jacobs? He needs this place, as there is Larry Toolkey. It's 3 wide in a place you never expect cars to go 3 wide in, but Larry Toolkey's made his way through. Kian's made his way through, and he's up into P9, but he's stayed P9, and now Tony Itala's getting involved as well. It's getting a bit scrappy here, TK, in the finals points places.
Scrappy is one word of many that you could use to describe the action on track at the moment. I wondered for half a second if we were seeing defensive action being taken by Rishan Jacobs there, trying to hold Kian Gordendorp behind. Of course, the 2 TS drivers could be working in conjunction to try and help Jan Halliday try and secure the lead. It's Rishan Jacobs forced off on the entry to this stadium section, tries to still compete with Race Imtiaz, and I think he has managed to hold off for what it's worth. The Red Bull losing a little bit of rear end traction there. That's Liam Stevens, who couldn't quite keep the car on the straight line. Daniel's trying to come through as well. Of course, the driver that went long on the earlier set of tyres, Rishan Jacobs, gets a 10-second penalty for jumping or gaining a place by corner cutting. Apologies folks at home as words continue to fail me, and Jan Halliday now having to defend from a very ambitious Jan Halliday. Leo Lund making a move down the inside as Gabor getting aggressive as well. All of our drivers not wanting to give up the positions in which they so ensure they think they have. I think we're on for a final fantastic 2 laps of racing. Is late on the brakes by Gabor there. It's going to be Jan Halliday that has to go slightly wide. Zorzo as well, who almost tags his teammate. Larry Toolkey almost sent for about half a spin as the Mercedes has to recover. And oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, what a Grand Prix we're about to have. There's something happened further back. Yellow flags in the first sector. That's going to be Kai Pearson's car, and Rishan Jacobs dropping all the way down to P14. Surely there had to have been some instant there to cause the Red Bull to drop that far.
And Alex Gillen has gone on soft tyres, TK. He's going to go for the fastest lap of the Grand Prix because he will say that Alex Gillen has the fastest lap with those soft tyres. It's possible he may still pull it off. Kian is charging in the field with Jan dropping his further down, but he will only drop as far as 6th as long as he doesn't pick up a 3-second time penalty, TK.
Will do indeed. Speaking of 3-second time penalties, Conrad Bohm picks up a 3-second. Of course, wing damage to that V-carb further back, but we retain up towards the front. 2 laps of racing to go here in Mexico, and it is Riccardo Benzoni that continues to lead the Grand Prix. Sabrino and Tope trying to make their way through as well. They'll currently stand on the podium as Rashan Jacobs seems to have lost 2 more positions further back to the use of DRS. Leo Lund stands in 4th with Gabor in 5th. Our top 6 still remaining penalty-free. Jan Halliday in P6 with with just a few tenths off the back of our top 5. Kean Gordon still with penalties in P9. Penalties, when they are applied, will drop him down at least another couple of positions. This is going to be an incredible lap and a half to decide who wins the Mexico Grand Prix. Get your predictions in chat, folks, whether that's YouTube or Twitch. Who do you think is going to win this race? Will it be Benzoni, Sabrino, Tope, or will it be someone else entirely?
Yeah, and it's not only for the race win, but it's also for the final championship here in F2 for F1 24. It looks like it's Jan's to lose, but without the way the race has been going in the last few laps, it could still be Kian Gordendorp's to win. But we still have another round to go in Abu Dhabi. Will it go end here in Mexico City? They're all so squirrely out of the stadium section. We're on lap 36 of 36 as here comes Sergio Sabrino. He's waited his moment, he's waited his time, and he's passed Riccardo Benzoni with ease as here comes Tope as well. Riccardo Benzoni tries to defend best he can, tries to go down the inside, but gets blocked off from Riccardo Benzoni. There'll be another DRS zone, but because of where the detection point is, there will not be any DRS for Riccardo Benzoni, so he's going to be in serious trouble from Tope. He's going to try and launch it around the outside. He's going to get run out of road, or will he? Because he's somehow held that in a straight line, but he can't do anything more than that. So right now, it is still Sergio Sabrino who leads by 1 second now. He may be on his way to his Grand Prix victory here in PCF2 with Alex Gillen setting the fastest lap, a 1:45.85. It all ends happy for Mr. Gillen, but for Sergio Sabrino, it may be his first win this season.
Certainly will be indeed. He's got only a few more corners to navigate. No DRS will come to the aid of Riccardo Benzoni, who could fall like a sitting duck here this afternoon, but the crowd will rise for Sergio Sabrino as he makes his way through the stadium section. 2 more corners to try and navigate for Haas and for Sabrino. The crowd cheers his name. It's the fastest drive, and Sergio Sabrino wins the Mexico Grand Prix. Riccardo Benzoni finishes in P2. Tope finishes in P3. Lund does all he could to finish 4th place. Gabor in 5th. Jan Halliday, who I believe could be our championship winner, finishes in P6 with Daniel Larry, Kian Gordendorp and Tony Hietala as the top 10. And what a race we have just seen. Race finishes in P12 just behind Diego Zorzo, who finishes in 11th. Liam Stevens in 13th. Conrad in 14th. Rashan Jacobs in 15th. But one Alex Gillen, who can claim he got the fastest lap in a PCF2 race, who we probably won't hear the last about here this afternoon. A drive-through to start. He'll finish in 16th. What a race we've seen here in Mexico.
What a race indeed, and have we crowned new champion? We will do the maths quickly for you, ladies and gentlemen. And the driver of the day does go to Leo Lund. What a fantastic drive it was indeed for him. A drive to remember here, ladies and gentlemen. But did Kian Gordendorp do enough to deny a new champion? I'm not sure he did, TK. If the maths adds up correctly, you want to do that quickly as I go through the results here. We got Sergio Sabrino, who wins from Riccardo Benzoni, Tope, Leo Lund, Gabor, Jan Halliday, Daniel, Laurie Tuki, Kian Gordendorp, and Tony Hietala in your top 10. And then, of course, we've got Diego Zora, Race, Imtaz, Liam Stevens, Conrad Bohm, Rashan Jacobs, Alex Gillen with fastest lap of the Grand Prix, Kai Pearson, Anton Asensio, and Danny Van Ruiten, your DNS this afternoon. TK, have you done the maths? Have we got a champion?
I'm just trying to figure that out. He's got 6 points versus he's 2. So that would put him 17 points clear of Kian Gordendorp. According to my maths here, and of course pending any decisions, the title goes to Abu Dhabi.
Oh, well. And it goes to Abu Dhabi if the maths is correct and any, of course, Stuart's decisions, as you mentioned, TK. So, TK, you will not be seeing the F2 champion be crowned for PC F2 this year. But, of course, if you want to tune in next week, well, we're going to find out who will be F2 champion. But of course, as we get to the end of that Grand Prix, we will have some interviews. I believe we will be chatting to Alex Gillen as well. And let's see if we can get him in here when he is ready. But yeah, what a fantastic Grand Prix, TK. It got a little bit of scrappy towards the end. Maybe a couple of moves that people may have seen as desperate moves by some, but there was a championship on the line, and of course, everyone wants to make their impression in PCF2, and I think they certainly did this afternoon.
Certainly did indeed. All across the board impressions were made, and albeit I think if we hadn't seen that jump start, we had a lot of calls for game issues right at the start. Obviously, we can't confirm or deny anything. We haven't seen it from the perspective of the drivers, but who knows? We might even see another attempt in the near future. But alas, it was a valiant effort. Fastest lap as well, clearing off what was Kai Pearson's by just over 0.2 of a second, and that did allow Alex Gillen to pick up what would have been a singular point for fastest lap, but alas, not in the top 10. Could have changed the game for the championship though, and according to my maths, it finishes with 17 points difference between Jan Halliday and Kian Gordendorp, and it is incredibly close in the championship. And unless Kian has a perfect race next time out in Abu Dhabi, I think the championship could certainly go the way of Jan Halliday.
Yeah, of course, perfect race, if people weren't mistaken, would be fastest lap, pole position, and a Grand Prix win. And Jan would have to have a stinker of an afternoon for Kian to win. But it is not impossible. Formula One has been known for a lot of random things to happen, and of course miracles can happen. We are still waiting on Mr. Gillen. I believe he's probably doing his breakdown of what went wrong in F2 race for his first attempt of an F2 drive. But TK, any points you want to add, because of course this may be the last time we are together in a PSGL F2 box for, well, at least a season, but possibly longer.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, it's been absolutely fantastic. Obviously, this has been my first game cycle with PSGL, starting back in season 37 alongside you in F3, and then doing the last 2 seasons in F2 as well. And I just want to say thank you to not only yourself for sharing the commentary box with me for probably many more hours than we probably would care to admit, but also for Connor for taking me on as well, and Josh and all the guys behind the scenes. It's been fantastic to see, and yeah, I hope one day that we may be reunited once again.
Yeah, I'm sure. Obviously, we do commentate elsewhere. It's not like we're not seeing each other again from this point onward. We do commentate in many other things, including probably a very long live stream that'll be coming up shortly for in the F1 world in F1 25. But we have still. Is Gillen coming? Do we know? Is he on his way?
Probably not. So we'll start with our little wrap up, and if he appears last minute.
Yeah, if Gillen does appear, he will get into. But if not, ladies and gentlemen, of course, this has been PSGL F2. We are on the penultimate round in Mexico City. We have one more round to go, and it is Abu Dhabi, the final round of PCF2. A round that it will be with myself, but not with TK, as he will not be here for Abu Dhabi. He will be in chat, so you can say thank you very much to him, and I do recommend you will do that for PCF2. I don't know who I will be joined by, but I'm sure I'll be joined by someone in the future. But of course, if you enjoyed PSGL action, you can follow at Premier Sim GL on social media. You can join us on the YouTube, Instagram. You can join our Discord and join the conversation. You can follow us on X, follow us on TikTok, and of course you can follow us on Twitch, where you may be watching from now. TK, if we want to find you, where is the best place they can find you?
I'm at They Call Me TK. It's just below our names here. I point at the wrong thing every single time, so I'm not even going to try this week. But yeah, give us a follow on pretty much every single social media and or Twitch as well at They Call Me TK. Alex, where can they check you out, sir?
You can check me out at Deflink10 on pretty much any social media platform, from Twitter to Twitch to whatever. My camera has absolutely gone to pot, as it's very much blurry for some reason. It'll come back in a second. I don't know if my microphone quality is well, but it's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, I will let TK do the outro, considering my microphone situation is what it is at the moment.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and what a race we've seen in Mexico City here this afternoon. I've been Tom Knight. Alex Heron has been Alex Heron. And if there's one thing we can say from this evening's endeavours, well, we were there. Good night. God bless.